One of my subscribers gave me $1,400 of their hard-earned money to build them the best gaming PC that I possibly could. And by the end of this video, we're gonna figure out if what I built him is a gaming PC that he's absolutely going to love, or if he's really gonna hate this thing. Hopefully he doesn't hate it. Before we get started on today's build though, I wanted to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Autofull, and their M6 Ultra 2.0 gaming chair. Now I've sat in a lot of gaming chairs over the years, and most of them are basically the exact same thing with different colors, but the M6 Ultra 2.0 is one of the few that actually does something different. It features a built-in cooling, heating, and massage feature, so whether I'm editing videos for hours, gaming late at night, or spending way too much time tweaking BIOS settings, I'm comfortable the entire time. The chair also has dynamic lumbar support that adjusts with your movement, a 3D headrest, and highly adjustable armrests that let you dial in the perfect position for gaming or productivity. One feature that I have been using a lot is the integrated footrest. When it is time to take a break, this thing basically turns into a lounge chair. If you're spending hours at your desk every day, your chair matters just as much as the hardware sitting on top of it. Check out the Autofull M6 Ultra 2.0 using the link in the description down below, and thanks again for Autofull for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the build. So for the list of demands that he has for his gaming PC, first, he wants it to be white. I love how we're trying to ball out on a budget and we have to choose white components, which are usually a little bit more expensive than black components. Second, it must be powerful enough to play games at 1440p. And lastly, he doesn't want any used items. Now this is one that I definitely pushed for a little bit because I can do a lot more with a $1,400 budget if I'm able to use used hardware, but I'm gonna respect his wishes and we're gonna stay with all brand new. Now there is one piece of hardware that Tim did give me. His name is Tim, by the way, and there is one piece of hardware that he sent me that he already had. Apparently he's had this for a little while and I'm gonna grab it right now. He shipped me the power supply that he would like included in his build. This thing is 1,300 watts. I can promise you with a $1,400 budget, there is absolutely no way that we could get to a point where we would need 1,300 watts, but he said that he picked this up a long time ago for a fantastic deal, and I'm not gonna tell him he can't use it. He's just gonna be ready for any and every upgrade that he'll ever need, probably for the entire lifespan of this power supply. But since he is supplying us with the power supply, that gives us a little bit more money that we can spend in other places. So let's take a look and see what we've picked up for dear old Tim. So let's start off where we always start, and that is the motherboard here. I picked up the Gigabyte B850 Eagle board. I've used the Eagle boards quite a few times on the channel. I've never actually had any issues with them, even though my motherboard repair videos would say otherwise. I get a lot of them returned, but there's usually pin damage or they did something really stupid with the board. But with this board, we save a little bit of money because it is an M-ATX board, which does come in usually a little bit under what full ATX boards come in. This board right here is $155, which is a pretty good value for what you're getting. It's an AM5 motherboard. We get DDR5 memory and Wi-Fi 6E. For $155, I'd say it's a pretty darn good pickup. That's good looking too. So I'll go ahead and put this board on top of the motherboard box here to keep it safe while we go over today's CPU choice, which is the Ryzen 5 9600X. We get 6 cores and 12 threads with a 5.4 gigahertz boost clock. We're gonna be on the AM5 platform, which means tons of upgrade potential in the future and an impressively low TDP because I know power is of short supply here. The only other CPU that I did consider for this build was the Ryzen 7 7700X, but since he is building this for gaming, and that's all he wants to do is he wants to game, there's really no need for the additional cores. This right here is going to be all the performance that he needs for a starting build with a $1,400 budget. But let me go get my gloves because we don't build people's PCs without gloves on. Not because it really matters, just because I think it looks cool. Ka-chow. Boom. Do you see how much cooler this looks? I love that every time I do these videos, I like make a big deal out of putting the CPU in. I'm just like, quiet on set. We're putting in the CPU. And everyone's like, it's just installing a CPU. It's not that hard. You should tell that to all the people I buy broken motherboards off of, and they've just like completely destroyed the socket. Clearly, there's a few people out there who need the moment of silence. But speaking of that silence, great success. All right, let's begin the process of having a completely trashed room. So let's go ahead and move on to the part where we're all just gonna get in a big argument. The RAM choice for today's build, which is 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance DDR5 6000 megatransfers per second RAM. This alone is over $250 of our budget. So yes, 16 gigs of RAM for today's gaming PC, because there's absolutely no way that I could afford 32 gigs, at least not at $1,400. I mean, we built both of our giveaway PCs for the last season of the PC Build Up Challenge with 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and I tested those PCs in so many games, and we were able to play every game. So lastly, for our motherboard assembly, we have our SSD here, which is a Western Digital Black SN7100. This is a Gen 4 drive. It has extremely good read and write speed, so it's gonna be perfect for this gaming PC, and it only came in at like $180. There were a couple different options that I could have gone with the SSD, but I wanted to go with something that was, you know, from a reputable brand. So we went with Western Digital Black because it only came in at around $177, which was a pretty decent deal in comparison to what every other 1 terabyte SSD is. So while we are installing our SSD here, I'm gonna go ahead and make a wish to the gaming gods that one day a 1 terabyte SSD doesn't cost close to $200 anymore. Hopefully they hear our prayer. And just like that, our motherboard assembly is finished, and I gotta say, it's looking pretty good. I actually like this Corsair Vengeance RAM. It's gray. I thought it was gonna be black, but it's actually gray, which kind of looks pretty cool with this board right here. I didn't buy the white one because it was like $10 more expensive, and we're gonna have RGB on it anyway, so who cares? So now I guess we need a case. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. This right here is the Johnsbow D33. And now that you've seen the case, I have a confession to make. This case right here is actually not a part of the $1,400 budget that Tim gave me to build his PC. This was actually sent to me by Johnsbow, and since it's just been sitting in my closet doing absolutely nothing, I feel like Tim could make better use of this absolutely gorgeous case than I could, or that my closet deserves. So this is just a gift from me to Tim, so we can get Tim something really cool, and I can show you this really awesome case at the same exact time. The D33 is an MATX case with tons more room than what you usually find in MATX cases. You actually do get a semi-dual chamber here, as the power supply is hidden, because a lot of these cases that are MATX aren't this big, and you can't put a like 360mm AIO up top. I know that there are some that does fit that, and you have to drop the power supply down a little bit, but you are able to fit more inside of this case than your traditional MATX case. We get the ability to house up to 9 fans. We get BTF compatibility. I think it looks really great. I think the PC that we're gonna be building is gonna look great inside of here, and I think that Tim is really gonna enjoy this. I do always like that Johnsbow puts their accessories in like nice little packaging rather than just like a flimsy box. Like, this is a nice way to package all of your stuff. And when you buy their like really expensive PC cases, they come in like their very own like plastic containers. It's really nice. But let's go ahead and let's get her mounted in. I think this board looks great inside of this case. One thing that I am curious though, and maybe somebody can explain to me in the comments, why do they opt for silver when they're obviously going for like the white theme? Like, this is white, the rest of the PCB is silver. Why do they go silver instead of just paint it white instead? Those are just things I think about while building PCs. But one thing that I did notice when I was putting this motherboard in here, I do plug in the case cables to the motherboard once I get the motherboard installed. And in doing that, I accidentally routed my cables on the outside of this bar, which doesn't work because then you can't put your back panel back on. You do need to route it in between this bar because it just you will not be able to put your back panel on any other way. It's not annoying, it's just something to know so that you don't have that problem if you're gonna use this case ever. I'm just trying to be helpful. Okay, so from what I'm seeing, this top panel doesn't actually come off, which might be the craziest thing that I've ever heard of. All right, so I'm gonna just start unscrewing things and see what happens. All right, so this is the first time in the history of cases for me that I haven't been able to remove this top panel. this is fixed on. It's not coming off. You're able to get this bracket off, and then you can mount your AIO to this and then hoist it up, and then you screw everything back in, which really seems like that's kind of a pain. But I'm not gonna knock it yet. Yeah, it's interesting, it's unique. I don't know if I like that or not. I will say this though, I'm trying to put this bracket back up without even attaching an AIO, and it's pretty difficult to line back up even by itself. Well, I guess we'll see. Let's go ahead and throw in, that nuclear reactor that we're gonna be using for this PC build in here. So the trend of things being a little bit more difficult than usual with this case has kept up through the power supply installation, because in order to get the power supply installed, you have to take off 3 screws, one of which is behind the front panel, just so that you can get the bracket that attaches to the power supply onto the power, or out of the case and onto the power supply. And then when I went to go ahead and put the power supply in, I went to screw in everything. I screwed the 2 back screws, and then I went ahead and tried to screw in the front screw here, and you can see the sticker that is attached to the power supply, and I absolutely hated that we could see that through the mesh. So off the power supply came again, so that we could use our heat gun and remove that sticker, all while we install it back onto the case and reinstall all 3 screws and have a much cleaner look. I just like building computers so much that I enjoy doing it twice. But for the few of you who get upset when you remove the power supply sticker, which I've done before and people have commented that they dislike that, don't you worry one little bit. I saved it, I attached it to the box here, so maybe one day if they want to put it back on, here it is. And on that note, let's go ahead and try and do something with this thing. Now, when it comes to this bracket right here, what we could do is we could install 3 120mm fans on here, throw it back in the case, add an air cooler, and just be off to the races, because this CPU doesn't really need more than just a basic, small air cooler to make sure this thing stays cool. It doesn't really pull a lot of wattage unless you overclock this thing. But there is a piece of hardware that I have been dying to try, and it is this right here. It's the ZC360. Now this is a 360mm fan. That's where all the fans are connected, but it has 3 individual LED screens on each one of the fans, which is super cool. So a lot of people who use AIOs, they want a screen on their pump head. This, is 3 screens on your pump head, on your pump fans rather than your pump head, and I've seen it for a while and I have always wanted to use it. So we're gonna add it to this 360mm AIO right here. Now this is the Aqua Elite by Thermalright. Thermalright makes some of the greatest AIOs. I've actually never had one of these malfunction on me. They're wonderful, especially for the price, because I think this thing only costs like $53 or something like that. It's a really great deal for a 360mm AIO. Plus, if he wants to upgrade to something way more powerful in the future, he's covered, because a 360mm AIO will work with a high-end 9950 X3D. You throw that in here, this would keep that nice and cool. I mean, so would a big beefy air cooler, but this is gonna do a better job at it anyways. Plus, who doesn't love screens? Now, when it comes to this AIO in particular, I have actually never used the Aqua Elite that has the round pump head. The ones that I have used always had square pump heads, so small changes, but they are changes. Now, in order to use this ZC360, we are gonna have to remove these fans, and you may think, wow, that's kind of a waste of fans, but don't you worry one bit. This case right here has space for 2 intakes and 1 exhaust fan. 2 intakes, 1 exhaust fan. Now that's us using our big brain. One thing though that I do think is going to be a little silly, I've taken the ZC360 out of that box. It's very wide. Definitely wider than this, but I believe that it's designed to go on AIOs, so it should work. All right, so let's get it out of the box. Take a look at that. That's super cool. And you got the 3 screens, and then you have the RGB around the fan bearings here. Really nice. Plus, you can take these off, which is, I mean, that's a cool feature, but you can't remove the ones in the back here to like replace them. So I don't know what the point of being able to remove these is. I'm gonna have to look into that. But let's go ahead and see if we can't get this screwed down here. Oh, and if you were curious on if this thing is wider than the AIO, it is. By quite a lot, actually, too. And voila, we have a much cooler looking fan on our brand new AIO. Tim, I'm telling you, if you don't like this build, we have beef. Okay, so let's try and add this in here. What's blocking me? Something's blocking me. Is it the RAM? The RAM is blocking me. Well, that sucks. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of the RAM for a second. All right, let's try it now. What's in the way now? So now we're in, but we're not in the back. Oh, popped up. I think that's it. Let me get a screw ready so that I can screw this in the second they're lined up, or I might miss it. All right, we'll just put the back screws in and we'll be done with the AIO finally. I'd have loved to get closer up footage of that, but that was a pain in the butt. That was honestly, that's the hardest AIO install that I've had to do in a very long time. Now, when it comes to the mounting orientation for the pump head, I'd love to mount it like this. Unfortunately, you can't do that, and it shows that you can't do that because the Thermalright emblem is upside or sideways there. If you do this, that is the correct orientation for how the emblem looks, so that their logo is correct, but it makes the tubes wonky. Look at how wonky the tubes look. So like, yeah, you can probably adjust it a little bit, make it look a little bit better, maybe pop it forward a little bit. That looks awful. Honestly, if I'm gonna have to mount it incorrectly, that looks better to me because at least it keeps these tight. I love Thermalright, but this is a bad design, but I mean, you really can't complain for $53. So we're almost finished with this build. All we gotta do is add in our front intake fans, throw in our exhaust fans, and our graphics card. So let's go ahead and get these fans in so that we can get to everybody's favorite part of any build, the graphics card. Now, when it comes to the graphics card selection for this build, there was really only one option in my mind, and that was 5090. 5090 or nothing, but I couldn't find a 5090 for like 600 bucks, which was pretty sad. So we ended up having to make a different decision. Now, I could have gone 5070, which would have been a great option, but like the cheapest white 5070 is like approaching $800, which is unbelievable. So we were kind of left with one option, and that is the 9060 XT, which we're talking about left with an option. This is still a fantastic option. This is gonna give you tremendous gameplay at 1080p. It's gonna dominate games at 1080p. And it's really great for entry-level 1440p gameplay as well. So this is a wonderful option, and it keeps us within budget for Tim's build. So let's go ahead, throw this thing in here, and see how it looks. So there is absolutely no shot that our dear old Timmy dislikes this game PC. This thing is spectacular. You guys want to see it? I mean, it wouldn't be a PC rehab video if we didn't do some kind of montage, right? So let's roll it. So when it comes to the part selection for Timothy's build here, if you agree with the parts that I chose, please give this video a like, and if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below what you would change about this system. Now, I have had quite a few conversations with Tim about like his expectations for the PC. He doesn't want to do any editing, no streaming, he doesn't use Discord, he just wants to play first-person shooters. That's what he likes to play. This is it. The only other option that may have been a good idea is to maybe go for the AM4 platform and get 32 gigs of RAM rather than going with the 16 gigs of DDR4. But the only problem is he did make multiple references to wanting to upgrade down the road. If we went AM4, the upgrade path is over on AM4. I'm not saying it's not a great platform, because it absolutely is, but when it comes to upgrading, we are done with AM4. So AM5 was kind of just a no-brainer. We needed to figure out how to make it happen on his budget with this, with this platform. Now, when it comes to the D33 by Johnsbo, this beautiful case right here, I love how it looks. The airflow in it is fantastic. It operates great. It's just a nightmare to build in. They have got to figure out a way to make it so that either just the top comes off. Just that alone would make this whole experience better if this could be removed, because think about it this way. Think about you put the entire PC together, right? And you haven't tested anything. You got the power supply in there, you got all the cables routed, everything is perfect, and then you forgot to switch the power supply. You can't get in there without removing the entire power supply. Why? That's awful. That needs to change. But the fans, however, the fans are extremely dope. I definitely need to find an excuse to use these again, because these are really, really, really cool. The software is extremely easy to use. I just used a couple of their presets. They have quite a few different presets that you can load in, and you can make it kind of like rotate through them so they're always changing. And there's also customization, so you can like customize and make specific ones depending on like what kind of build you want to do. If like you have a Pokemon build, you can have just Pokemon stuff, and then you could set it all the way that you want it to be. It's really, really cool. It's definitely worth taking a look at if you don't have screens in your build and you want to add them in easily. This is just a really easy like fan brick to add in if you have the space for it in your case. Now I gotta go ahead and get this thing packed back up, and we gotta get it sent back over to Tim so that he can hopefully take a video for us so that I can add it on to the end of this video so that you guys can see if I did a good job or if he absolutely hates it and I gotta figure out a way to make it right. I don't think there's any way that he can hate it. I think it's pretty cool. Now, if you did have a little bit of fun here with me today, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is 100% free for you, and it goes a long way at helping my little channel reach a larger audience, and maybe one day, hopefully, I can not be a little channel, I could be a big channel. That would be pretty cool. I mean, it is the goal after all. And if you are somebody who's a little bit like Tim and you want your PC built on the channel, please consider reaching out. I'd be more than happy to take a look at what you got going on. My email is in my YouTube channel bio. But I'll leave you with, no matter where you are in the world, I hope you are having the most fantastic day. And I'm gonna see you right here for the next video, which will be in this case.
Bro, you killed this shit, man. This is insane. I appreciate it. Huge shout out to Ryan, PC Rehab. Way beyond expectations, bro. Can't wait to get on and start wrecking shit.